Hi everyone, I'm sorry I was so late. I've been coming from Whitefield. Usually I stay in the center of town. You can hear me like this as well, right?
Yes, we can hear.
Everyone at the back? Yeah? Okay, cool. So yesterday we had a late recce that we had to do at Whitefield, so we all stayed over there, and that's why it took me so long to get here. I promised to keep it fun and not boring, hopefully. And if at any point you feel bored, please like raise your hand and just tell me that, hey, I'm bored. Can we please do something else? Or, you know. So I'm going to give you a little bit of what I've done in uh, in my life, which is kind of like almost a story of sorts, and you'll also kind of understand how you can build your story, which is why I've given all of you a sheet of paper. So what we're going to like sort of establish by the end of this is basically try and figure out who each of you are as people and what you can provide to the world and how you can be from like on social media, on LinkedIn, and on all these platforms that exist where you have a voice. And I'll explain why it's so important a little later. So just to give you context, I did write something about a week back that I wanted to share with you all. And like I said, at any point, if any of you are bored, please stand up and say, I'm bored or whatever. Yeah? Okay. So, good morning, all of you. And thank you so much, sir and ma'am, for inviting me. And like how Bangalore traffic is in general, I'm sorry, who all stay the furthest from here? Who stays like furthest from here?
What is furthest?
For the that's the thing. So do you stay on the east? Anyone stays in Whitefield? No?
Yeah.
One person does. Not bad. How do you travel every day? Please tell me. Sorry? Ah, okay. And then who stays like near Devanahalli side? No one does? JP Nagar? Jayanagar? None of you stay on any of these sides? Damn. Okay, that's why it makes so much sense. Okay, cool. So yeah, so life is like Bangalore traffic a little bit. You have like a different sort of experience in every road. There will be cows, there will be people, there will be fights, there will be buses, there will be 10,000 things that block you, and there are hurdles constantly in life. And at some point, you'll be like, okay, I think I can make it through. I think this is good. And then you finally reach your destination, and then you're slightly happier than what you were when you started. So, just to give you some idea of what I've studied, what I've done, and why I'm doing this right now. Honestly, if you're told like the younger me that I was going to be doing this, I don't think I would have ever known like that I would be a director of a podcast at all. That I can promise you. Um, so the last time I was in a room full of students and teachers was at college at NIFT, and it does make me a little bit nervous to come back and do this again. And but I will give you like an insight into my childhood and how this whole thing came about. Okay? So, what was surreal was in Jan of this year, I was sitting in a room with the Prime Minister of India and Nikhil, and we were shooting a podcast with both of them. And I did not, in my wildest dreams, ever think that I would be 2 feet away from the Prime Minister of my own country. And when that happened, it was so surreal because I think after we finished that whole project, it took me almost 2 weeks to realize that oh, like, wow, I actually did that. That actually happened. So, and today I'm like 30 years old, and I did not expect that. In like my parents were like, what? And I had to keep it as a secret from my parents, right? Like I was going to Delhi, but my parents couldn't know because it's all top secret stuff. They put pressure on you. And so they were like, why are you going to Delhi on Christmas? I'm like, I cannot tell you. I'm sorry. But, and then later when I told them, like 10 days later after the podcast came out, they're like, oh, that's what you were doing in Delhi. Cool. I thought you just like, decided to abandon us on Christmas and New Year and go spend time with someone else and not spend time with family. The emotional blackmail parents give sometimes, right? So that's what happened. But then when this happened, they were like extremely proud and super happy that, okay, she actually went and did something cool. So that's exactly what happened. And I have been working with Nikhil for the last like 5 years. Um, and since all of you are from a business school, I want to start with a very like funny incident that happened when I was 3 years old during my first interview with my principal. So, what happened was at this school admission interview, I only knew Tamil when I was 3 years old. And so I looked at my principal, and in Tamil I said, "Naavne shoot pannidven," which basically means, I will shoot you. And what exactly happened in this interview was that it was Diwali. And I was really like excited about patakas and those guns you used to get and all of that. So she just looked at me and she still gave me admission after I told her I'll shoot her. And I was like, okay, I guess, like this works later on in life. So my mom keeps telling this story to almost every single person she meets because everyone needs to know that I'm a bit of a terror. Like either I can be really sweet or I will be really scary. There's no in between. And this is how I am as a leader as well. I'm super fun till something happens. So I've kind of like learned how to balance a little bit of fun in life, but also try and do something slightly different constantly. So when I was younger, the first few instances where I had different people sort of, like talk to me and sort of aid me and guide me is like my first teacher. Her name was Lakshmi ma'am, and she knew Tamil, I knew Tamil, and I didn't know any other like language, and everyone else in class knew English, right? So she was like, okay, like you need to learn how to speak slowly, and she would make me feel very safe. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you do, if you just know like a specific language, doesn't make you any different from knowing another one. So she kind of guided me into like feeling more comfortable and taught me what networking means before networking, the word existed in my life. And my mom is a crazy, she has 5 jobs at 60 years old today. She loves working. She's an absolute workaholic. I probably get it from her. And she is a textile engineer and designer. And during childhood, she used to make me basically draw on the walls at home. Like we used to have these red oxide walls, and she used to just give me chalk and be like, go draw. And so for like 6 years, every day in the evening, I would draw on the walls. And my mom would come back home from work and she would clean up that whole thing. And this is what we did for like 6 years. And that's kind of how I feel why creativity was so important for me from a very young age. And my grandmother, she is another crazy person. She was born actually in Lahore, and after partition, she ended up in West Bengal, and then she came to Bangalore. But she loves studying, and she was a Cambridge graduate in the 1950s and 60s. So she's always been someone who's like so fierce and independent as a woman. So I've always grown up with a mother and a grandmother who are so, independent versus like how, sometimes in different sorts of people, different types of people exist, right? But in our household, it was always like, okay, what is mom saying or what is grandmom saying? It was never what is dad saying and what is tata saying, for example. My granddad was another, interesting person. He loved math, and I also really like math. But he really taught me what is the fun about math. So in like traffic signals, what I do usually is I look at like number plates, and I'll see if they're divisible by 7, 9, 11, just for fun, just to while away time, because I feel like that just makes you as logical as you need to be creative. Your right brain will always be more emotional and creative, and your left brain will always be more analytical, right? So you always need a balance of that in your life, because if you don't have one, the other one dies. Um, so try and do as much math as possible just for fun. I know most of you hate math. Actually, how many of you hate math? Wow. Okay. You can raise your hands if you hate math. Okay. How many of you hate accounting? Interesting. Okay. So all of the people who hate math and accounting, find someone who's your partner and co-founder when you end up building a business, to be able to like balance out this equation whatever you do. The third and fourth person who had a very significant impact in my life is my uncle. So my uncle is my mom's brother. He was schizophrenic, and he was the most really iconic person, to be honest, in a way, because he got like the first rank in IIT back in 1970s, and then went and worked at. Have you any of you watched Homi Baba, that show on how they built the first atomic research center in India? Yes? No? No? Okay, you should watch that. But that was basically how India started like growing as a country. So what he did is he went and worked at the Baba Atomic Research Center back when he was 20 years old. And after a while, I think after 3 or 4 years, we realized that he was schizophrenic, but he learned like 7 instruments on his own. No one had to like teach him. He would draw comics. He was very talented, high IQ person, right? But not very well accepted in society, because being schizophrenic is such a taboo in, like our culture. But what he taught me is that he didn't care if he was schizophrenic, he knew he was smart. So his differentiation kind of like made him who he was. And the last person was my athletics coach, who basically would put hurdles in front of me every single day, and I would fall every single day, and I would get bruised every single day. And we did that for 6 years, and finally in ninth grade, I ended up finally having a national medal in 100 meters. Thank you so much. So, what I'm trying to get at is that, like all of these people in your life kind of add this small value, whether it's someone who helps you be more open, social, make friends, network, not network, like be more creative, a best friend who really pushes you to do better, those kind of people, right? Like, don't forget that every person you kind of meet has some value to add. And you need to decide how you want to capitalize on that value to be able to do something interesting with your life. So, for example, if you look at my resume, it would look completely illogical. By degree, I'm a textile designer. But right out of college, I became a photographer. I modeled for 2 years, featured in Vogue, worked at Lakme Fashion Week, while figuring out how to fund myself in Bombay at 23, because we weren't exactly a well to do family. And then I helped my mom build her business. Then I took an internship so that I could run away from my mom, because I could not work with her. When you put two strong women together, it becomes very hard. And so basically, I decided to take an internship in Marthahalli while my parents stayed in JP Nagar, so that I would be busy and wouldn't have to deal with, the pressures that she gave me. And this was just my way of saying that I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be independent from a very young age. And that's what happened. And when I did take up this internship, I slowly started realizing that everything that you do kind of becomes what you decide you want it to be. You always have a choice. If someone tells you that you can do an internship or you can quit and do something, you still make that choice. And no one can ever force you to do something unless you are literally put in a cage and said, no, you will do this. And that doesn't happen, guys. So, what I'm trying to get at is that when I finished this internship, I basically haggled my way into getting into a luxury social media agency and got paid almost 3x what I was getting paid in the first one. And basically, like, just did it out of, 20 seconds of courage. Now, 20 seconds of courage is a very, like, easy thing to do. It's in situations when you feel like, you don't have a choice, you don't know what you want to do, but deep within you actually do. And most of us don't realize that. And sometimes you just need to take 5 seconds and be like, okay, I'm going to be courageous for the next 20 seconds and I'm going to say what I want and how I want and what I want to do to whoever it is sitting in front of me. And that is something that I have completely applied on every aspect of life. Irrespective of not having a lot of experience in social media marketing, I ended up doing this interview because I said, okay, fine, what do I have to lose? And then I got this job. For 2 years, did that. And just when everyone thought that I had finally figured it out, that I was completely okay in this new job, everything was fine. And then I made a complete 360 and joined a hedge fund and worked with Nikhil Kamath, knowing absolutely nothing about finance. I actually really don't know anything about finance. So when I joined that job, on day one, I was clueless, absolutely clueless. But when I did join the job, it took me like about 3 or 4 months to literally like haggle every person that I wanted to haggle in that organization to learn finance because I needed to impress Nikhil Kamath. And so when the first time I made a pitch for him in the first week, right? I said, okay, here is what I want to do. Here's how I'm going to build out your profile. And this is what we are going to do in the next 2 years. He said, yeah, sounds good, but it depends on how you make it happen. He didn't care about a presentation. He cared about execution, which is like so important, right? And that sentence completely changed my life. Like today, most of the times when I have an idea, I make sure it's executed before it continues remaining an idea. Because what tends to happen is that all of you sitting here have an idea, but you barely go after it because you just feel like, oh, what if I fail? What if something happens? What if, things get very not so great, right? That's the biggest fear in our lives because we don't like uncertainty, we don't like instability. But sometimes you got to realize that you can also look at the other side and be like, what if it actually all works out? Just once, maybe out of the 10 things that you end up doing, there's one thing that might work and everything else might fail, right? But at least you tried those 10 things. At least those 9 things taught you something for that 10th thing. So the idea is always to do something and never like second guess yourself. So try and apply the 20 seconds of courage rule to everything that you feel a little scared about, including like, putting forward your opinions in a group setting, in a classroom setting, in a meeting. That's one tough one for everyone sitting here. In meetings, it's so important to like raise your voice when it absolutely makes sense because if everyone talks, that's a problem, of course. But at least, like when you talk, when you get your 1 minute in that meeting, it's important to make a lot of sense of what exactly happened and what you want to bring to the table. It's important to push that conversation one up and not one down. So, today, after 5 years of working with Nikhil, we have built WTF from scratch, and that's exactly why I say that your journey doesn't need to make sense to anyone except you. You don't need to convince your parents, your friends, your best friends, your sisters, your siblings, your entire extended family. You just need to convince yourself that you are in the right journey, and it doesn't matter how a lot of people feel about it. So these are the things that I kind of look back at is when you meet when you meet someone, you never know what value they might add to your life, you know. So it's really important that your next big break might be hiding in someone else's story, you know. So curiosity is something that you should just never let go of. And you treat everyone the same, whether it's a CEO of a company, whether it's an intern of that company, whether it's your staff at college, whether it's whoever, it doesn't matter. Because I remember having this very interesting conversation with one of my, I basically book like a cab from the airport usually when I'm back. And this driver basically told me that it's so important for me to let my wife lead the finances. And I found it very interesting because I was like, how can I didn't know that there were men who allowed this to happen. And usually I've been very independent, so I have not really like had that scenario. So when this happened, right, and when he said that I think it's important that a female also has a voice in the house expenses, where we're spending money, what we're spending on, I found it like so important at the end of the day to really make that tiny difference. The third thing is learn about money now. You guys, I'm sure, get a pocket money or like a small amount or something like that, right? But how many of you really save? Does anyone save money right now? Raise of hands, how many of you save money? Not bad. Can you please teach the rest of them also how to save money? Because this is a crucial skill, and the earlier you start, the better, purely because of compounding. Okay? And the fourth one is to find your niche. Like you guys, I've given you a sheet of paper, right? I want all of you to take that sheet of paper and I'm going to give you a few things that I want you all to write. Yeah? One, the first question. All of you have sheets of paper? You need a pen? You don't have a pen? How do we get a pen? Can you share it? Does that work? Okay, cool. Let me know when you're ready. Ready? Yes? No? Yes? Who's yes? You who's ready, please? Okay, cool. I'm just going to start and then we can take it from there. The first question is, if you were a company, what would your brand tagline be? I don't care if it's funny also, but keep that funny if it's humor. I'm being serious. Have you figured it out? Have you written a sentence?
Can you come back again? They must have not understood.
Sure. So if you were a company, so let's say I am this what eclectic mix I told you about, right? So my tagline would probably be something like creative but analytical, for example, something like that. So if you were a company, what would your tagline be? You know, like how all the brands of the world have a tagline, right? Tell me when you're done. Anyone's done? I don't mind listening to some answers. Are you all done? No? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I have done two taglines. One is trust your plan, and another one is failure is just a step for yourself.
Nice.
So one is trust your plans, and the another one is failure is just a step for success.
Nice. Who else is done on this side?
The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is consistency.
Interesting. But how can you make it yours?
As a entrepreneur, the consistency is very important, ma'am. Even if profit or loss, I should be confident and I should be consistent in company to succeed in long term.
Okay, got it. Who's next? I want a few from this gang sitting in the center, especially the ones in hoodies. I will pick on y'all because I used to be y'all at one point. Sorry? Who's done? Who's done writing that tagline? Yeah.
Ma'am, can I say it in Tamil?
Yeah?
நம்பி வந்து சந்தோஷமா போகும்.
How many of you are Tamilian here? And Kannadiga? Interesting. Give me a Kannada like tagline, no? What? What? Someone give me a Kannada tagline since he gave a Tamil tagline. Who's next? Who's next here? Anyone? Yeah, go.
My company name would be about the educational background, and I would say the tagline like invest your time in yourself.
Okay, got it. Thank you. No one's giving me Kannada taglines over. Also, do you want to explain your Tamil tagline? Yeah. Can you explain it in English?
Come, trust, go happy.
Okay. Has anyone heard the song Don't Worry, Be Happy? Yes? Okay, cool. That's kind of what it means. Who's next on this side?
Mine is chaotic creativity.
Nice. Who else? Who else? Yeah, go for it.
Like, be yourself, be genuine.
Nice. So, you know what? Why I did this exercise is because each of you, tomorrow, if you're going to build a business, you're going to need to know what you stand for before anything else. It doesn't matter, like, bring your own flavor to your business. You know, that sells the culture, that sets the tone for the kind of people that you hire. Do you want to say your tagline? Do you want to say your tagline? No? Okay. So these are the things that make that final difference, right? Now, the next question is, what are 3 words that you would want people to associate with you? If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would that be? Whoever's done can like raise their hands and we can just review these 3. It could be anything, like I am a little messy, I'm a bit chaotic, but I love like attention to detail, for example. Done? Not done? Yes, done, not done? Okay. The third question is, what is one thing that you want to be remembered for? Please write it down. Like, most of this is also for your future. Maybe when you're my age, you look back at the sheet and be like, oh, okay, not bad, I've done a little bit. So that's the idea. What is one thing that you want to be remembered for? That's the third question. I really want to know your answer. The one with the mask. I don't want you all to be shy, guys, at all, actually. And the fourth question is, what is the one fear you will commit to facing this year? What is that one fear that you have that you will possibly close that fear by the end of FY 2025, 2026. Done? Can we go through like two people's answers? Any two can raise their hand. Anyone? Is everyone shy? Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Should I just read out my
Yeah.
answers? So the second question was, how would I describe myself in 3 words? One is innovative because I believe in innovations and getting something new. Consistency. I prefer being consistent with my work, whatever I'm doing. And another one is I prefer taking feedback from people like whatever I'm doing and ask them how what do you think? What is your opinion on me and what on my work?
Got it.
And next third question was, how would I prefer to be remembered as?
Yeah.
An innovator, to be honest, because as a researcher and as an entrepreneur, because
What do you want to research in?
actually currently I'm working on some research based on space explorations, robotics, automations, and all this.
Interesting. And what is the one fear?
One fear is actually I have multiple fears, but one is taking risks. Sometimes like what happens in a sense whenever I think of taking risks, I'll be like, what if the drawbacks hit me very bad? So this is the one thing I wanna come out of it, and yeah, that is a major one I feel.
Understood. Thank you. Who's next? Who's next? Just one person, any person. Anyone? Guys, are you shy? Are you shy? Yes, no. You can say yes to being shy, yeah. Like if you're shy, just say you're shy. What is it? No, you made a joke. I want to hear it. I heard you. So tell me. No, you don't want to say. Now you're shy. Are you matlab? Come on. One more person. Anyone from this side or anyone from that who wants to read out their answers? No? Okay, anyway. But this is a sheet that I want you all to remember for the next year and try and keep it with you in your wallet, in a box or something like really special. Because like a year later, you're going to find it. Maybe 5 years later, you're going to find it. And you're going to realize either how stupid you were or how smart you were already. Or actually, okay, that I had little brain, but I didn't really think it through. And I thought everything is a joke in life or whatever else it is, right? So I want you all to keep this with you as a memory of who you are today. And then when you compare yourself 10 years down the line, you'll see how long and how far you've actually grown in life. So this is a little bit about myself. This is a little bit about all that like I have done, how I've done it, and this is a little piece that I wanted to leave you all with, so that you have something to carry for the next 10 years. And that's about it. I'm not going to bore you anymore. I don't know what Shabrish has planned for after this. Sorry? Yeah, sure.
Hi, Meghna.
Hi.
I love your hair. I
Thank
have the
you.
same hair. The first thing
Why
I
you
noticed-
not opened it?
I didn't wash my hair.
Okay, bad headache.
So
I want to really ask you something, dude. Like you seem to be a jester, right? Yeah, are you funny? I think you are. Is he funny? Yes. Why doesn't he own up to it? You can't be shy and funny. You have to be one of the two. Yes. Anyway, continue.
So we're very glad to have you here at ABBS. So let's have a small discussion. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Sure.
So Meghna, take us back to a moment when you first realized storytelling was your calling. Like what was happening in that moment?
Honestly, I have not had a moment like that. For me, it's all about like a challenge that just comes your way and then you just do it. There's no one defining moment, but I knew in 12th that I would only do something creative. That was established at that point. Yeah.
12th is like, we all decide that. Maybe 90% of us decide what we're going to do in 12th, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So-
How many of us stick to it is a different issue.
Even I am not sure if I will stick to my
Yeah.
degree. So yeah. So the next question is, can you walk us through a project that completely changed how you approach storytelling and what made it a turning point?
I think the one with the Prime Minister was very interesting because you had the responsibility of a nation looking at that content, and also globally and also locally. So then, and from both sides, right? Like everyone needed to seem like they really understood what they were trying to say and were intrigued by the conversation. Because how many of us like watch the Prime Minister's speeches and the everyday stuff that he does? Have you all ever seen it? Yes. Do you watch it regularly? By a show of hands, how many watch regularly? Not many, I guess. Yeah. So that was one project, and if I had to run you through it, I think it was a very. We used to work almost 20 hours a day. It was a very very intense thing because of the high security that we had around it. It was also tough because you couldn't use internet. Because of the high security, you had to go back to living like you were in the 1980s, where you had like CDs and you had to put all the content on that, and you would get notebooks and pencils, and that's it. And you had to figure all of it out without any internet. So that's why we work 20-hour days, because that's how much internet makes a difference in your life when you can just work 8 hours to 10 hours. So yeah.
That seems really interesting.
Yeah.
So the next question is, when you're stuck on a creative challenge, what's your process for breaking through it? And can you share a specific example?
Yeah, so I had a massive creative block when I was around 24, and something that I did was decided to do this thing called one new thing a week, where every week I would try something that scares me a little bit. Like, I hate singing. I've been trained for 16 years, but I hate it. Like, I hate public singing. I only sing in the shower and I don't care about the rest of it. But so, though that whole year for 52 weeks, I ended up doing one new thing every week. So, if it was okay, like sometimes I used to overthink sending a text message to a friend or like doing those kind of things. So then I would just send it. That was a new thing. So it was just like that. I think that really helps. And other things that help your creative block is when you can disappear from your existing routine and do something that's completely different. Like go to a theater and watch 3 movies back to back. It doesn't matter. Go do it alone, cry in one, feel happy in the next, and do something else. But you really need to break your routine, because that's what causes creativity to like die, essentially. Yeah.
Especially the text message thing, I think many of us will.
How many of you are scared to send text messages, da? Wait, but how many of you rethink sending a text message? Wow. To your girlfriend, friend, parents? Which one? Parents. Just put it on ChatGPT and be like, I need to send this message to my parents. Please make it parent friendly.
I think especially about the parent thing, we've all been there.
I'm sure. But your parents will come around, don't worry. Yeah.
So, as a director and a producer, how do you balance your creative vision with collaborative input from your team?
I think working with teams is something that's so important. I know that every team has a leader usually, and then you have like 3 people who do different work, and then there's always one person who doesn't do the work, right? Yes? Are we all in agreement? Yes. But that one person will bring the fun to that team just for fun, or just disappear, basically. So, this is always going to happen. This will always happen through your life, whether you're a manager, a leader, a CEO, anything that you do. And what you realize is that sometimes you just need to, no matter how much you want to say, hey, don't take that route, I've tried it before and I have failed in it. You just need to like let your team do that, take the route, try it, fail, and then come back. Sometimes it's just important for people to go on their own journeys, fail, come back, and then all of you can sit together and actually work on finally what you need to do. But unfortunately, sometimes we don't have time for that. So very often I try and, like navigate both, and I let people, I give them like a 2-day period to go and experiment and come back. If they've succeeded, great. If they've failed, then we go back to what, the thought process of what we were all thinking together. Yes.
I think I'll take that input because when I face that challenge almost every day. So yeah, the next question is, tell us about a time when you had to defend a creative decision of your own that others questioned, and how did that play out?
Interesting. Um, so for the, it's so funny that everything keeps coming back to the Prime Minister, but that was a very hectic project. So the teaser of that episode, we basically didn't even show the Prime Minister, but we used his laugh. And we used his laugh and then we left it open ended. We didn't even post a caption, nothing. We just posted a video where Nikhil was saying one line and then it ended with Nikhil looking at another person and the PM's laugh. That's it. So we wanted people to start like commenting and being like, oh, is it the PM? Is it Amit Shah? Is it, Nandan Nilekani? Is it this person? Is it that person? And for that idea to go out, we had almost 6 days of debates. Like 6 days, every day for 1 hour, we would sit and debate. And I would just keep pushing for this because I would be like, I know people will recognize this laugh. I know for a fact, and I can guarantee you this. So I kept fighting over 6 days to be like, this will do well, just trust me on this. And then when it went out, it was one of the most talked about teasers in marketing agencies, in like, design groups, and a lot of like founders found it interesting. So it was that, yeah.
Prime Minister.
Yes, yes.
So, how do you see technology changing the fundamentals of storytelling, and what remains timeless according to you?
I think globally we're moving towards more authentic content. So when I say authentic, I mean, like the person who was sitting, yeah, this guy who's funny, who's also like shy, for example, like he is someone who is authentic because he's funny and shy, right? There's something that's different about it, but not funny and loud, for example. Now, on an AI platform or on any of the AI platforms, they have already taken in all the data of the world and they have made a consolidated understanding of what they think, what that machine thinks that the world looks like. So the machine rarely comes up with a new idea. So I like this term called multi-potentialite. It's a very interesting term where no matter if you have a job, you must do 3 or 4 other projects. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's like for money, not for money, a hobby, whatever it is. Now, the reason for doing that is, let's say your job is in accounting, right? But let's say your hobby is dancing. And let's say you have 2 other projects that you just have curiosity for. You want to know how airplanes fly, like one of your projects. Then the last project could be you want to know how, like biological X-ray scans work, and how that whole machinery and system work and how you can streamline that process. Now, when you start doing all of this together, your accounting flows into your dancing, flows into your biology, flows into the airplane. But if you never did these 4 projects together, you would probably just be doing that same thing through your life. So it's really important to be a multi-potentialite because the more the world goes towards AI, the more generalist you have to be because AI will do your general stuff, but you need to do the thinking above it. So the more you build curiosity in a specific direction, the better for you. Yeah. And every day, I think till the day of that race, all I had was bruises everywhere on my knees, on my hands, because you would run on synthetic tracks and then you'd get burns, and so it was a nightmare, but it paid off. Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've received about leading in creative industries, and who gave it to you?
Nikhil, actually. I don't know if you guys have seen that reel of him at the 01 Fest saying, I'm going to say Ben Stokes, but Ben Stokes, hum sab marne wale hai, right? Which basically means you are all going to die at some point. You might as well live what you should be living and not care so much about 10,000 billion things that we all think about daily. I think that's the best piece of advice.
What would you tell a student who has great creative ideas but struggles with the business side of media?
Make a best friend who's a business person. Because you need trust, you need someone who you can rely on, and there's always AI. So if you don't find a best friend, you can always use AI for the business stuff. Yeah.
So if you could collaborate with anyone, living or dead, on a project, who would it be, and what would you create together?
I would love to work with Anna Wintour. She is such an icon of fashion. My previous icon was a 103-year-old grandma who was a maximalist, but she passed away recently. She has a documentary called Iris. It's on all platforms. But she was an epitome character of her life, and she would literally dress as what her brain thinks, you know. So she would be someone that I would probably work with. But I'm very interested to meet Putin. I don't know why, but I think Putin would be a very interesting person to sort of understand. Yeah.
In 30 seconds, what's the most important message you would want your audience to remember from today?
I think that's for them to say, right? I don't know which part stuck with any of you. I know this guy's going to go home and be like, I'm shy and funny, but I don't know which part stuck with all of you, so I can't say. Yeah.
Can we have someone from the audience?
Did you guys learn anything today? Anything at all? Yes? No? Little bit? 5% more? Okay, cool. Then it's fine.
So, what question were you hoping that I'd ask you that I haven't asked yet?
I mean, we pretty much covered my life, my career. I think, I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I would have expected you to ask me a lot of traditional questions, but I think that you didn't. So it's nice that I'm getting new questions. Yeah, basically.
So, you mentioned storytelling, your way of working and redefining storytelling. What does that mean in practice?
Okay. I think what we like to do at WTF is we like to leave the conversations very open, right? Like it could be like how she and me are talking right now, how any of you who are sitting in gangs are speaking right now, but very like casual conversations that just happen. And when you get the base of it, when you get the raw footage of it, right, you sit with that and then you see like, okay, where is the energy peaking? Where is the energy falling? Where am I getting super bored as the person who's making this for an audience? You know, like it's so important to listen to your intuition, because if you do not listen to it and if you like look at something and say, okay, I just have to make a 3-hour video, then let me just post it, right? So that just becomes very mechanical. So I think the process is that for every minute of information that kind of goes out, we try and figure, okay, is the energy going up? Is the energy going down? Is this giving some sort of an emotion to someone? Is this not making me feel anything? And sometimes I even take like 2-day breaks from the content and then come back and see the whole thing again, because I'm like, okay, this gives me a fresher perspective. So then I wear the shoes of any of you in the audience, and then I say, okay, can I make it more interesting? Can I do something that's more happening? Because we have great attention spans as the world, and I think it's so important for the authenticity to come across with as much fun as possible. Yeah.
I would like to ask the last question. How do you nurture creativity in yourself and others when facing tight deadlines or commercial pressures?
That's a very hard one. I think I'm in that situation every day. But I think over time it's become easier to do it because I've just become fairly resilient. Like, I don't get anxious, I don't get stressed, I don't care about deadlines that much, which is become like something that I'd rather put out work that's really good versus give something that is average, you know? So if I have to like go back to Nikhil and tell him that, hey, I'm sorry, but it's going to take 4 more days for us to like close this, I will. But I'll do it in a very peaceful way so that he also understands. And I think logic and reasoning is something all of us understand as human beings. And I think it's so important to tap into that, that if you explain to someone that, you know, I know that I can make it like 5x better, so just trust me and give me this time to do it. Yeah.
That was not the last question. That was not the last question.
No worries.
So, what's one trend in media and storytelling that excites you, and one trend that concerns you?
The concern part is AI scripts. I think that is something that, you know, kind of isn't authentic but could do well purely because all of us have such short, limited time spans. The thing that really excites me is something called micro dramas. It's a new sort of space in this field. Does anyone follow Terrible Tiny Tales here? No? So it's a very interesting page. Basically talks about the flip side of life, but not the happy side, but little bit sad, but little bit funny also in a way. And they make like small 1 minute movies, and it gets linked into a 4 episode series. So the total shoot time is just like 20 minutes, but you get like 4 minute series out of that. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
So I want to ask something personal. How do you maintain your hair?
Yeah, hair. Anyone else wants to know how I maintain my hair? I can see a lot of people with curly hair actually. Well, it's a very long process. Every 3 or 4 days, it's a 1 hour routine to wash, moisturize, like make sure I use the right comb and all of that. So it's quite a process. But I will send you the link of all the products that I use. Yes, will do, and you can share it with everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It was a fantastic blend of insights and fun. Thank you, Meghna and Sunaina, for making this segment so lively. Now it's your turn. We'll take questions from the audience. Please raise your hands, wait for the mic, and introduce yourself briefly before questioning. So, can we have few questions from audience? None?
Myself, Mohan. So there's this question that they say when you're passionate about your job or whatever you're doing, when you love your job, there's a there's a thing when you get a grind, you get you go forward through everything, you never get bored. But at some point you might feel exhausted, or don't judge me on this, but you might have felt some exhausting thing, like at some point I should leave all this and just get a break at some place, or somewhere you should be living, not here. Like, how do you balance the work life with your common life?
I think that happens every day. Every day I'm like, I can go to another city and start a new life and be a new person. But then I still show up at work because I honestly like it and I like the people and I don't want to ever be in a position where I disappoint my team or anyone that I've been working with for so long. And when I do find time, you take a vacation because that's very important for the mind, heart, and soul. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Mr. Nakul Pasani to give a gesture of gratitude to our guests.
Hello.
Hi, Venkat.
Hi.
I'm Nakul.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
No
Unfortunately,
worries.
couldn't make it. I was in another campus, but we have the whole thing recorded. So